Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Today we're answering questions about hydrangeas, trees, weeds, and a lot of other gardening things. It's the Q&A show just ahead of the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Every week we receive many viewer questions and only have time to answer a few of them on the show. This week we're going to spend the whole show catching up. Let's start off with a couple of questions about hydrangeas. My limelight hydrangea had huge blooms this year. In the heavy rain in mid-August, the limbs all bent down and have yet to come back up. I thought it should only be cut back in late winter or early spring, but the bush looks pitiful. I cut it back to around 3 feet last spring, but it still grew to about 7 feet. Should I just cut the blooms now and then limb in spring? Nadine, Cordova, Tennessee. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, the limelights are very large, 6
Right.
to 8
Beautiful
feet.
too. Yeah.
And so, you know, if she wants it as a centerpiece in that area, that's fine. But when you get stems like that, and they've fallen over, I mean, you're not going to get a bloom again this year.
Right.
Why don't you just stake them back up? Use some stakes and stake them back up so that they're out of the way and are more upright. I mean, you could do that. But of course, you can cut them if she wants to, but I would tend to want to stake them up and see if I can't prop them up so they can look pretty for a little while longer. Okay. And then when you're cutting them, she says she does cut them every year, which is good, but I would leave them, 2-3 feet tall, because then next year when they start shooting up those stems that high, again, the other stems that are there might help keep them upright.
So support.
Yes, support. Okay. But then this happened this year. Why don't you put some extra support in there to begin with, and maybe they won't flop clear over in the storms.
And she's cutting back at the appropriate time, right?
She is cutting at the appropriate time.
Okay.
Late winter, early spring.
All right, so that is correct. Okay.
Yes.
My hydrangeas develop brown dark spots all over. Why did this happen? This is Salwa from Georgia. Well, guess what, Salwa? Common fungal diseases, right, of hydrangeas include a couple, but for that one, Cercospora leaf spot. It is the #1 fungal disease of hydrangeas. Rainfall and overhead watering actually intensifies this fungal disease, right? And we're in that season now, okay? You get the little tan spots, right? Right outside of those tan spots, you have brown or purple borders, okay? It looks bad aesthetically, okay? Here's a couple of things that you can do. #1 is practice good sanitation. So when those leaves do fall off, pick them up because there's still fungal spores on there, right? So they can be carried by wind and splashing water, right? So that's #1, practice good sanitation. #2, we say this all the time, Mary, resistant varieties. Right? Look for those varieties that are resistant to Cercospora leaf spot. And then thirdly, you can use some fungicides. There's some safe fungicides that you can use. Copper-based fungicide will actually work. And then there's the old standby, which is chlorothianil, which is Daconil, that you can use, or myclobutanil is something else that you can use as well. But if you practice, right, good sanitation, resistant varieties, you should be fine. And then 2, if your hydrangeas are up against the house, poor air circulation. So it has to get real good air circulation because you want those leaves to dry off, right? Because what's happening is those leaves are staying wet for a long period of time. And then here comes the spores, and they just land right there on a wet spot. It's a Cercospora leaf spot.
Yeah.
Right? It can do a lot of damage, but it just looks bad aesthetically. I have rooted cuttings from knockout roses. Should I plant them in the fall or wait till spring? If I leave them potted, do I need to bring them inside or leave them on my porch or a storage shed? And this is Sheila from Chapmanville, West Virginia. So, can we help her out with her rooted cuttings? And these are knockout roses. So, should she plant those in the fall or would you wait till the spring?
If they're rooted and they're starting, I'd put the pot in the ground. I used to take my cuttings and do mostly in the spring.
Okay.
But then the heat in the summer and the lack of rain gets you, and it knocks down their survival rate. But fall, it's going to be cooler, and it lets the roots get established.
Right.
Now they'll freeze, and that's going to kill them. But I would, once they're rooted, keep them in the shade. But then when winter comes, either keep them from freezing or put them in the ground. I start my cuttings, I just stick them in the ground
Okay.
to start with.
So you have to keep them protected in the winter if you're going to leave them outside.
Yeah, because they'll freeze.
Right.
And you cover them up with dirt. I dug up some roses. Somebody had some construction site, was adding a shed or something, and I dug them up, a nice root ball, put them in a corner, covered them with hardwood mulch. The next spring, when it was finished, I dug a hole, and when I just pulled them up out of the ground, out of that mulch, there was white roots everywhere. It was amazing.
Okay.
But I'd stick them in pots in the ground. I mean, their winters are a little harsher than ours.
Right, right. And if you think about their plant zone in West Virginia, it's going to be 6A, 6B. So the plants have to survive temperatures of minus 10 degrees.
And cover them up with mulch.
Right.
That
So I
won't hurt.
cover them up. Okay.
That's what I do.
So that's what you do.
Good luck.
I have planted over 24 varieties of irises through the years. Only the 3 or 4 most common varieties bloom. I've tried moving the others to different locations, dug them up to ensure they were not planted too deep, and used Bloom Buster. Plenty of healthy leaves, but no blooms. How do I get my iris to bloom? Help, please. Michael from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Interesting.
Yes.
So Michael tried to do, everything that we talked about
yeah,
to do.
he
So
has.
what else needs to be done then, you think?
Well, I'm just wondering how much he's fertilizing. Because according to the Iris Society's website, you're really only supposed to fertilize 2 times a year. Once is in the early spring before they start blooming, and once is about a month after they finish blooming. So if you have a bunch of different varieties that bloom slightly different times, you're going to have to, watch your timing on that, the after fertilizer application.
I would agree with that because the
yeah.
Bloom Buster, you want to just,
How often is he? Because if he's got gorgeous foliage, he could be just, it's getting too much nitrogen somehow and producing too much foliage rather than
the blooms.
the blooms that you really, really want.
Right.
I hardly ever fertilize my iris. It's a state flower of Tennessee. He's doing the right thing, but definitely avoid the high nitrogen fertilizers. And I know he's, Bloom Boosters usually doesn't have a whole lot of nitrogen in it, but if you're putting it down too much, it could be too much. And you might want to check the pH. pH needs to be 6.8.
Okay.
So he might want to check the pH for that too, and make sure he's getting 6 to 8 hours of sun for full sun location for them.
Okay.
Because all of those things can affect it. So hopefully one of those is a key to getting his iris to bloom again.
All right. And I would agree with that. I think it might be too much. How much is he fertilizing? Because, Bloom Buster probably has more phosphorus than
Yes.
nitrogen in it.
Which is
but
good.
How often is he doing that?
Yeah,
Would
they
be
don't
my
need
question.
that much fertilizer.
My brother-in-law says he uses peroxide, 1 cup to 1 gallon of water, to spray his tomatoes for blight. We started using copper per your recommendation, but peroxide would be cheaper. What do you think? Does copper, fungicide, or peroxide work better? This is Geneva in Brighton, Tennessee. So, what do you think? Copper, fungicide, or peroxide? I wouldn't use peroxide.
I would not use peroxide. I mean, I know for one, it's not labeled,
It's not labeled, right?
and you're eating these tomatoes, and H2O2 is what peroxide is. So it, I don't think I would do that. I don't know, I don't know that it has, antifungal properties at all, but
That's a good question, Adam.
it might. I would, but the fungicides that we recommend for blight control in tomatoes in Tennessee are chlorothalonil or mancozeb, and you can kind of mix those up. One at a time, but I probably would not use the same fungicide.
Yeah,
all
so
the
you
time.
rotate.
Yeah, rotate them around a little bit.
Yeah.
But for tomatoes, stick with the old
Chlorothalonil.
mancozeb. And I think
Mancozeb.
you'll be all right, and you won't have to be worried about eating the fruit from them either. Because to control blight, you've got to spray when you've got ripe fruit out there on the plant.
I'm altering the pH for blueberries. If I change the soil pH in one area, how large an area does that change affect? Will it impact other plants in a border garden situation? Create stuff on YouTube. It's an interesting question, right?
Yes.
They're doing the right thing, right?
Yeah,
So they want to
are.
alter the pH for blueberries because we know blueberries need a pretty
Low.
acidic,
Yeah,
soil. So what do you think about that?
Well, she's right to be concerned because when you apply, either the granulars or the liquid to try to lower the pH in one area, it will stay mostly in there, but doesn't exactly stay exactly in there. But and if it's a smaller situation and other plants are around, their root systems, go
Right.
way out, so the root systems might be affected by other plants that are nearby.
Right, because we don't know how close the blueberries are to her garden situation, border garden situation.
Yeah.
But so in the immediate area, yes, it would
Yeah.
change the pH. But if you have other plants nearby and they have extensive root systems, then there's a chance,
Yeah.
right, that they can pick up some of those nutrients as well.
Yeah.
And be infected, by the change in pH.
Yes.
Right. Because most of your plants, for the most part, good pH between 6.0, 6.5 is good. But
Yeah.
when we start talking about 5.2
5
and
and
5.5
4,
and 4.
Some of the things
Yeah.
they just won't like
No.
that, but and it just, like I said, it depends on how far away
Right,
it is. But
I agree.
mostly it does stay in
It
just
does.
the area that you put the amendment.
Right, it does.
It doesn't go very far away from that,
Right.
if that's what she's concerned about. So, and just like I said, it does depend on how far away the other
Right.
plants
I would
are.
agree with that because again, if we're talking about altering or lowering the pH, we're talking about elemental sulfur and things like that. So, it just depends on how
far away they are.
It depends. What are some of the sweetest sweet corn? Are there any bicolor varieties? And this is Mark from Bethel Springs, Tennessee.
Sweetest sweet corn.
sweet corn.
Oh, there's a lot of good varieties
man,
out there.
it is.
And there are a lot of bicolor varieties out there. Sweet corn has a rating, an SU, an SE, or SH2.
Okay.
You know what those mean?
Okay.
SU is sugary.
Yeah, I knew the
SE
sugary.
is sugar enhanced.
Okay.
And the SH2 is super sweet.
Okay.
I used to think peaches and cream was just one variety of, and it may be. Peaches and cream may be a variety, but there are a lot of bicolor sweet corns out there. Ambrosia
I know
is
ambrosia.
one. Serendipity.
That's another one that comes to mind. Obsession.
Okay.
Yeah, that's bicolor. I'm familiar with.
Multi-sweet is a good one. American
Never heard of
Dream.
I heard of
is
American
another-
Dream.
American Dream has won some awards.
heard of
Yeah. I think the multi-sweet and American Dream are bicolor.
Bicolor.
Old Silver Queen is not bicolor, but
but
it's
it's
it's probably a parent
Of one
of some of these. It's
good.
These are hybrids. These
Right,
are hybrids,
right.
and but yeah, you got a lot of different varieties out there.
Okay, a lot of different
that will
varieties.
work
For the
for you.
sweet corn, right? Sweetest
Sweetest sweet corn out there,
Sweetest
and
sweet
the super sweet. There's a couple of varieties I have here on those. The Vision MXR is just a yellow, I think, but they have one bicolor, and it's called Honey and Pearl.
Honey and pearl.
Yeah, so that's a super sweet bicolor variety. So you may want to check that out.
Yeah, check that out, Mark. That sounds good. Great names, right?
You're going to have to go to a lot of trouble to keep the raccoons out. I
I'm
guarantee that.
sure.
Electric fences will do it. though.
Okay, electric fences. All right. That's
Short,
okay.
don't have to be tall.
2 years ago, I started having problems with a flower bed weed that I believe is chamber bitter. I mulch every spring, but it seems to do little to control this weed. At a very early age, the plant develops seeds beneath the leaves, so pulling the plants actually helps spread the seeds. I've started spraying, but don't like to. Even when spraying and I use Amine 400, it will kill the current crop, but the chamber bitter will return in a month or so. Any suggestions for controlling this aggressive weed? Mike from Gardendale, Alabama. Chamber bitter is tough.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about chamber bitter?
I have not experienced that.
It looks
one.
like mimosa trees, so they call it little mimosa.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
you've seen it around, right?
Yeah,
It's a
I've seen
broadleaf
it, yeah.
weed. Of course, it's an annual weed that you see pretty much in the
But
summer.
you know something? Every time I've seen that, I pull it out right away while it's
You
still
better.
young.
You better.
And then if it keeps coming up, I just keep pulling it, and eventually the carbohydrates are gone.
Better,
But if
yeah.
it's been left there, oh, that's going to be a lot of problems. And yes, I have seen areas that are completely covered in it.
I have too.
But, I know he doesn't want to spray, but that's what we usually, if it's a large mat of it, that's
Right.
what I have done is put some glyphosate on it, and,
Right.
and it has taken it out. But it's mostly young. I mean, we're talking just a few inches tall.
Right.
I don't let it get big.
No, you better not, because it will produce a lot of seeds, those
Yeah.
little branchlets. And this is in his flower bed.
Ah.
Right. So the thing about that is, so let's go back to the cultural practices first.
Yeah.
Right. So make sure you're fertilizing, correctly, according to your soil test, watering appropriately.
And mulching.
Mulching is important. I know he said he does it every spring, 2 to 3 inch layer,
Yeah.
because the seeds are going to need sunlight to germinate.
Right.
So I would still continue with the mulching. If it happens to come up in areas that are not heavily mulched, I would pull it up right then, right then and there. You can use a pre-emerge. Okay.
Yeah, you can.
There's a pre-emerge, anything that contains isoxaben, so Gallery or Snapshot, would work. Read and follow the label on that. Now, if you're thinking about a post-emerge, I would again go with a wipe technique. This is in the
Yes,
flower bed.
It's in the flower bed, yeah. And I would, the
Wipe technique with the glyphosate, or again, 2,4-D, MCPP, dicamba, which are broadleaf weed killers. I would protect those desirable plants
Yeah,
and just be careful.
yeah.
Right, because chamber bitter is tough, but you have to get those weeds when they're young and actively
Yes.
growing.
Yeah, whenever I've seen those, I just get them out right away. So I have never experienced the seed pool in them because I don't let them get that large.
Right, because they have a pretty extensive deep tap root system. So once they get started, get them, they'll continue to grow.
Yeah, the wipe technique with the glyphosate, with your gloves on, reading label directions, and just sponging it on the top of the leaves. That
It works. It definitely works. And you can do that with the glyphosate, and you can do that with your 3-way herbicides.
That's right.
So I would consider that. Again, read and follow the label. I bought a new brown turkey fig tree and have put it in a pot. It has some dead branches. Should I cut off the dead branches of my brown turkey fig in the fall, or should I wait until spring? Do I need to bring the pot in during the winter, or just wrap the pot so it stays warmer? Colette from YouTube. So several different questions there,
Yeah.
right? So what about pruning off the dead branches?
Oh, yes.
It's anytime.
Anytime you get dead branches, because you don't want it to continue down, dying whatever it is down into the plant, so you want to cut those off right away.
Right.
And I know she's got it in a container, and she probably thought it needed water, but maybe it didn't. And when you get dead branches like that, it reminds me of something might be too wet
Right.
for the plant.
Good point.
But I don't know. But yes, you can cut those at any time.
Anytime. Now, should she bring the pot in during the winter, or leave it outside? And
Well, that's a good question because we don't know where she's from.
oh, right.
But I tell you, figs are hurt and don't live when, at 10 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right.
So if she's in a colder part of the country, then I would bring it inside. We even had that cold temperatures here this last week.
Yes, we did.
And if it's in a container, even if you wrapped it outside, and we're it's gonna get cold like that, then I would bring the whole thing into the garage or
Yes, I would.
somewhere protected.
I would definitely do that, Joel, that's for sure. Because we know that fig trees in this area that were outdoors were killed back.
Yes.
Right, killed back to the roots. A lot of them did resprout, of course, and came back up. But if I had it in a pot, knew we were going to get cold temps,
I would bring it inside.
I'd bring it inside.
Yeah.
I'd bring it inside, Colette. I'll definitely do that. But prune those dead branches off anytime. Anything that's dead, dying, diseased, or crossing,
Yeah.
you can do that anytime.
Cut it anytime.
Anytime, And bring it inside if it gets too cold.
Yeah.
My walnut trees are dropping their walnuts. What could be the problem? This started about the middle of July. The ground is covered with them. Is it too much rain or too much heat? We have had no drought in this area. Thanks, Charles from Marshall County, Tennessee. So that was interesting to me. So it's dropping its walnuts, but too much rain? Could be too much heat, but they didn't have a drought in the area.
I've got several walnut trees in my yard,
Okay.
and they drop walnuts every year. It's my opinion that walnuts do a pretty good job of self-thinning.
Hell yeah.
And I walked out and looked in picked up some walnuts yesterday to see if I could see any disease. Now, I did see some that may have some disease on it, which would be a function of all the rain, the extra rain that we've had. So maybe there's some disease there, but most
And you're talking about fungal diseases, I'm sure.
Right, fungal diseases. But most of the walnuts I looked at looked fine, looked like there was no sign of insect damage or no disease. So I think walnuts, and I grew up with a walnut tree in my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
They started falling early when you're mowing the yard. You hit them, in the middle of the summer, and so I think that they self-thin. I don't know whether this is a young walnut tree that maybe just started bearing, and Charles just started noticing it. But I mean, it's my opinion that this year's really no different from others. That they do a good job of self-thinning, and which we wish we could get pecans to do. But,
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
yeah.
So I'm actually familiar with a couple of walnut trees that are in my area.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're already dropping their walnuts.
Yeah.
Right. So I just think that they're being self-pruned, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a problem because they come back, pretty much every year.
Yeah. Right.
It's not a huge issue.
Right.
So I wouldn't be too concerned, Mr. Charles.
I wouldn't either. I don't think it's really that much different from every year with mine, anyway.
Yeah. Just pick them up. We have beautiful mature trees in our front lawn, some type of oak, I think. A couple of them have a lot of small growth from the main trunk. Should we have these low branches trimmed? And this is Dorian from Lakeland, Tennessee.
Yes.
So what is that growth?
That's called epicormic growth.
Oh, look at you.
Yes. And if you'll notice, the branches are very close together. So if they keep growing, they're not going to develop the kind of anchorage that they're going to need and are going to be more likely to fail.
Right.
Plus, they are taking nutrients away from the tree. So yes, I would have them pruned and get rid of them, because you want to keep the rest of the tree really, really healthy and not let these lower branches that aren't going to be good branches anyway develop.
Right. So if you can reach them, I would go ahead and prune them
If
out.
not, you
If
should
not,
call a certified arborist and let him trim them, or him or her trim them.
right. I'll definitely do that.
Yeah.
Epicormic growth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Water sprouts.
Water sprouts, yeah.
Yeah. This is interesting. I have two 30-plus-year-old sugar maple trees. For the past 2 years, the top of one tree has no green leaves, and the rest of the tree is turning fall colors prematurely. The other tree is larger and looks normal. Your advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Ms. Florence. All right, so we have good pictures here.
They are.
Okay.
This would take a little bit more of an investigation. I would start at the base of the tree, and I would be looking for, number one, weed eater damage.
Ah, okay.
Number two, girdling roots. You know,
Okay.
when the roots grow around the base of the tree, that's real common for maple trees. I don't know the history of these, so I don't know if at one point they were over-mulched or under-mulched, or it looks like there's a lot of grass under those trees.
Okay.
The second thing I would look for, and maybe four things. The second, with it being a sugar maple, look for squirrel damage up in the canopy.
interesting.
Squirrels love to
that.
chew on that sugary bark,
Okay.
that sap, and so look for squirrel damage up in the canopy. Because if they chew around that bark off up there, then naturally it's going to, stop the sap flow going up the tree.
Good. I didn't think of that. Okay.
Yeah, and then lastly, which this is just an assumption, but it's just one of the things that affects maple trees, and it's verticillium wilt.
All right, so that's what I was going to mention.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know that definitely affects, a lot of your maple trees.
Yes.
That might be the case.
Might be.
It might be.
I think it's going to be some of the other.
Okay.
I would start with the flare of the tree and look for girdling roots, and then from that point, well, heck, look at all of it.
Look at all of it.
Yeah, to test it for, it may take a certified arborist to test it for the verticillium wilt, or send it to
will.
UT or
right. It definitely will.
But you can, if you happen to get a twig that the squirrel threw out of the tree or whatever, or broke out of the tree,
Right.
just take a pocket knife and scrape it back into the xylem tissue to see if you see any streaking of the wood in there.
Right. Yeah, that would definitely take a certified arborist to do that and just send it
Yeah.
to a lab. Yeah.
Yeah, lab is the best way to test for that. You want to, you don't want to misdiagnose something.
That's right. That's exactly right. All right.
Is verticillium wilt treatable? That's a tough one. I can't name off any successful cases of that.
I don't think your maple tree is going to survive
No.
the verticillium wilt. I don't think so. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. To get more information on any of the questions we answered this week, go to familyplotgarden.com. We have all these questions listed on the home page with links to tons more information. If you had a problem this year in the garden that stumped you, let us know. We'd love to help you figure it out so you know what to do next year. Just go to familyplotgarden.com and click on the Ask Us Your Gardening Question banner. Thanks for watching, and be sure to keep sending in the questions. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.